fashionable professionally. Who do you think Marc Farzetta will say is the face of the Philadelphia Eagles in the Jeffrey Lurie era? Who is the one guy that you think personifies that guy when you think of Philadelphia Eagle football? Since that owner has owned the team, what is it, 95? Like that, right? He bought the team from Norman Brayman, 95, 96, somewhere in there, where he got control. Who's the one guy you think Farzetta will say, for him, covering the team all these years, is the face of the Philadelphia Eagles? Let's bring him up now.
Wow.
And get his thoughts here on that.
Wow. That's a great question.
All the years you've been covering the team.
If I had to pick one guy?
One guy.
You know, it's funny. The guy that jumps to mind now is Jason Kelce, but he's the face of so many other things now. Like, I don't think people just associate him with the Philadelphia Eagles anymore, even if he is arguing on behalf of the Eagles with the tush push, you know. Brian Dawkins, but as much as you love Doc, you've won 2 Super Bowls since Doc's been here, and he only played in 1. McNabb's another name that comes to mind, and then that quickly goes out of the mind. Jaylen Herz has played in 2 Super Bowls. I mean, Nick Foles you could certainly talk about. It's interesting. I was just having this conversation just about the power of Jeffrey Lurie. Like, if you would have told me 10 years ago that Jeffrey Lurie was going to be now the most beloved owner in Philadelphia sports, I would have said you're crazy, absolutely nuts. But that's kind of what it's become. He's become very much his own face of ownership in the city of Philadelphia in general. Howie Roseman's obviously been a very public figure over that time. If I sound like I'm buying time because I want to land on the right answer, I am. But I'd say right now, the face of the Philadelphia Eagles organization is Jaylen Herz. I think that is the face. And I also think that there's a little bit of a love affair between him and Jeffrey Lurie. Like, Jeffrey Lurie said the most incredible thing I've ever heard an owner say about a player. And he said it about Jaylen Herz shortly before they signed him to the extension. And that was, Jaylen Herz as a player has a phenomenal dedication to perfection. And I thought, I don't think I've ever heard anything nicer, more respectful said from an owner to a player ever before. And talking about a guy who's played in 2 Super Bowls now, he's won a Super Bowl, he's been a Super Bowl MVP. I would go Jason Kelce had it not been for all the things that he's doing right now throughout media. If I'd say a face of the franchise, I would go with Jaylen Herz over anybody else.
I picked Lane Johnson. Here's why. I picked Lane because he's been in all the Super Bowls except for 2. He's been in 3, right? 04 he wasn't in, and he wasn't in the 81.
Yeah, 3 of the 4, yeah.
3, okay.
3 of the 5. 3 of the 5 appearances, I guess.
3 of the 5, right. 3 of the 5 Super Bowls. He's won 2 of them. He's been under different regimes. And will we not agree in the back end of that 30-year ownership that these last 15 years have been arguably the most successful years for Jeffrey Lurie, have been the last 15? And who's been really a catalyst in that last run, the last 10 years? It's seemingly it's been Lane. You make a transition from Doug, he's there. You know, you're now with Nick, he's here. I mean, and his level of play has never like waned. And would you not agree? The face of the way that the Eagles win is based in that old line. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Miles Sanders. It doesn't matter if it's DeAndre Swift. It doesn't matter who it is. That offensive line has been the catalyst, just like the Cowboy teams. You know, when you think of the Cowboy teams, you think of Emmett and you think of that old line. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what you think of now in a way with that. I don't think of Troy Aikman with that. He won 3 Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I think right now that old line, because you've had so many different faces. I don't know. I just pick Lane because there's
he's a great one. He's a great one. You know what's interesting though, if you're talking about talking about players, absolutely. I think Lane. I think of Jaylen Herz, but the face of the Eagles organization, if you really had to nail it down,
is Howie.
It's Howie Roseman.
It is.
It's incredible. The fact that he was banished from the land, with Chip Kelly, and then a miracle happened. He came back better than ever. There is only one comparison in Philadelphia sports to Howie Roseman, and you know who it is? It's Bernie Perrant. And it's not even football. It's hockey. Bernie Perrant was a Flyer. Then he wasn't. He came back. He was incredible and won 2 Stanley Cups. Like, that's the only comparison in all of Philadelphia sports that there is.
Great reference.
I mean, you even go back, not to go hockey again, but I mean, you go hockey with Bobby Clark, was the GM, wasn't the GM, was the GM again. They went to a Stanley Cup, but they didn't win it. That's really the only real comparisons that you can talk about. Like, if Dallas Green in baseball would have went to the Cubs, come back and won again, that would be the other comparison, but he still won here in Philadelphia. So it's a wild thing to think about somebody that was here, didn't necessarily do well, and Dallas Green obviously did well when his first go around, and then come back and be even better. Yeah. And that the only comparison is Bernie Perrant when you're talking about the field of people that have been on the Philadelphia sports scene. And Howie,
great take.
Absolutely. He's the guy you think about. Like, even when you talk about Nick Sirianni, even when you talk about Jaylen Herz, I still think that they absolutely drafted Jaylen Herz because not because they were a quarterback factory, but because they wanted to replace Carson Wentz. They weren't putting all their eggs in one basket anymore on Carson Wentz after he got bounced out of the playoffs. So I look at Howie Roseman as the guy that's, I hate to use the word puppet master or the term puppet master, but he's the guy pulling all the strings. Jeffrey Lurie's cutting the checks and empowering Howie, and Howie's the guy pushing all the right buttons to the point where you lose 2 guys in your front office and you're like, yeah, no big deal. I'll just bring back the other guy that helped me win a Super Bowl, my first Super Bowl, and Joe Douglas. It's amazing. The face of the organization is also the guy, and I'm sure you've seen this story, the most valuable Philadelphian.
I saw that.
Howie Roseman.
And he gets a key.
He gets a key to the city. Go figure.
I got it here, man. Hey, let me expand on one last question before I get to Nick here. If you had to pick the most signature moment in Jeffrey Lurie's era of owning the team, and I'm doing this because, again, all the comments that have been made by folks about Jim Irsay and what he did to Indianapolis, because there's no question, like you said, Jeffrey Lurie has brought a different dynamic to winning in the Super Bowl era. You know, I know I'm not going back to the 60s and what have you, but I'm just talking about in the Super Bowl era. If you had to pick a Super Bowl performance for you that will always resonate, will it be Foles' Super Bowl performance, or will it be Jaylen Hurts' Super Bowl performance?
Nothing beats the first one. Nothing beats the first one. Running Philly special, Doug Peterson going along with it. I mean, I'll never forget. I think
that's one of the greatest moments in Super Bowl history.
Oh, absolutely.
Even before I started covering the team, when that guy's got all those papers like this, Mark, I've told you this, and that guy walks over and he just casually says, Philly, Philly, and he goes, run it. And I went, holy shit. When I saw that will always resonate with me on how that guy, it was so not analytics.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Like, hey, I'm getting a plain and pepperoni. Is that? Yeah, okay. Like, there was nothing to it. There was nothing to it. It was just, let's do it. Like, we're in here, we're in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots.
Brady.
Why not? Exactly. Why not? What the hell? What do we have to lose? You know, we're not supposed to win this game. Let's pull out all the stops. And they pulled out all the stops. And it was fantastic. And, not just that. I mean, Zach Ertz played phenomenal in that game. Corey Clement played phenomenal in that game.
BG strip sack,
obviously, and Derek Barnett. The only good thing he did in Philly was jump on that at the right time. It was absolutely amazing. And that was the first one. Like, I'll say this, I remember coming back because I was in Minnesota working the broadcast behind the scenes because I was an NBC broadcast. And I'll never forget coming back to Philly, landing at the airport and then seeing everyone in their Eagles attire. And I'm not afraid to admit it at all. I probably unleashed 2 or 3 tears because as a guy that grew up here, I thought of my older family members, my older friends that weren't for it, weren't around for it. My cousin Joey was a 700 level season ticket holder, and I thought of him, and he had passed away a couple of years before the Super Bowl. And I think a lot of us shed those tears in Philadelphia because we thought about the people that weren't there to embrace it. Ray Didinger. I mean, one of the most beautiful moments I've ever witnessed is Ray Didinger getting hugged by his son Dave, who I know pretty well also, on the set. And if that wasn't what many fathers and sons did while sharing the same sentiment of, this is for Pop-Up, that kind of thing, that's a beautiful thing. The fact that the Eagles won with Jaylen Herz and Saquon Barkley and that defense and all that was great, and that is amazing, but nothing will beat the first one. And that's the moment that I think the Philly special, seeing Nick Foles with his hands up in the air, catching that pass from Trey Burton. And then the stories that have come out ever since then about Trey Burton, when he was with Chicago, they wanted to run the play against the Eagles. And he said the night before, he couldn't sleep. It was too much anxiety. He said, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And he told Nagy he couldn't do it, and he didn't do it. But that moment of Foles with the hands in the air just about before he catches that ball was the most, that was the moment that I think a lot of people just went, holy hell, we're going to win this game. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I was on the truck for NBC for that game, a guy that I worked with, there was 3 Philly guys that could all see each other on the truck. And it was 2 ends. It was one guy far at the other end of the truck, Jake, and my boy Kevin, who is in the front row working the replays. And I'm on a machine that's basically just running plays back and forth for Chris Collinsworth. And that play happens. Kevin Brown, Brownie jumps up. And he's like, "Oh my god!" And he turns and looks at me. I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I turn and I look at Jake down the other end, and he just mouths to me because he can't yell where the producer and the director are. He just goes, "Oh my god!" And we're all just looking at each other like that was incredible, and then right back to work. But it was just one of those moments I'll never forget. The look on Kev's face, the look on Jake's face, and I'm sure I look like a big dumb idiot too. But that was just the moment that you went, "Wow, this was of all the times we've waited for something miraculous in a Super Bowl, this could be the night," and it was.
Boy, man, that spoke with so much passion. I mean, I've said this, and I love that shit, Mark. I do. I mean, I think, not every place is going to have that kind of emotion like that. In my lifetime covering sports, it's been 40 years now, I can only think of 3 cities that really impacted, where you're talking about family, your dad, your father not seeing a championship. It's Boston and Chicago when the Cubs won the World Series and the Red Sox won the World Series for the first time in 90 years. And for the Eagles, when they won that championship, no disrespect to the Flyers, the 2 titles, the 83 76ers title, the 68 title, no disrespect to that. It just seemed to me that I can't tell you how many Eagle fans that told me, I was like, I went to a gravesite. I went to Jerome's gravesite, Brooksville, and I laid flowers down, and I said, "We did this for you, Jerome." And I'm going like, holy cow, people still remember Jerome like that.
Oh yeah.
They were laying wreaths and they were laying flowers on his grave when you guys won the Super Bowl in 17, because it's right around his birthday. And there were so many flowers. People were calling me, "Have you seen this?" And I'm like, holy cow. So I could just imagine what that must have felt like in that city at that time. It was a different vibe, wasn't it? The 17 vibe versus last year was a different vibe, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the moment we were all waiting for. I'm a 6-for-6 guy in Philly. I'm not just a 4-for-4 guy. I'm a 6-for-6 guy, But when you talk about the Eagles winning, that's the top notch. Like I watched the Phillies win the World Series in 2008, and I just couldn't believe that actually happened. Like, wait, hold on a second, because I was born in '82. Sales, like,
so you missed the '80 title. You missed the '80.
I told you this before. My dad doesn't like to say that I'm named after Marc Iavaroni, but he likes to say that my name was inspired by Marc Iavaroni because he was acquired. He was acquired in August. I was born in September. And he just liked the idea of an Italian playing for the Sixers, and he liked his name with a C. So there you go. Anyway, I never experienced a championship. They won, the Sixers won. I was like 8 months old or whatever I was, and I never experienced it. Nothing. My family didn't care about Villanova winning in '85. Nobody cared about that. But when the Phillies won in '08, I was like, oh my god! And I remember thinking 2 things. I remember thinking my dad really undersold how great the parades were for the Flyers in the '70s. He undersold what it was like to have the parade in '80 for the Phillies and what the parade was like in '83 for the Sixers. Like, that's it. Like that undersold drastically. And then I remember because it was so amazing to be there on Broad Street, which I was. I remember I was on the Union League ledge overlooking Broad Street, and Pat Burrell comes down, puts his hands in the air. Everyone goes bananas. And I remember that. And then I remember thinking, okay, this is great. But man, if the Eagles win this, if the Eagles ever win this, this will be incredible. And there we were, 10 years later, the Eagles won, and I was right in front of the Art Museum steps for every second of it. And one of the things that I thought was so great, to go on to the point about, generations teaching each other, I remember walking up the Parkway, and I remember a father and son holding hands, and the son could not have been more than 7 years old. Like, he was a little kid. And the son had a number 60 Kelly Green jersey on for Chuck Bednarik. And I remember thinking, I mean, you really do. I mean, I don't know how it is with you. I mean, I'm sure it's very similar with, your Sicilian family, my Calabrese family, but it's like, our family members never die. They live on in stories.
Absolutely.
And
I tell people this,
yeah.
Mark, the only thing that we don't have now is the tears. We have the great memories.
Oh my God. And I remember thinking that father and son, I remember thinking that father is too young to have watched Chuck Bednarik. His father had to tell him about Chuck Bednarik. No way that kid knew Chuck Bednarik, but he knows about Chuck Bednarik. It's beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
The only thing I remember about that 08 series, because I was in Tampa at the time covering it, is those freaking freezing cold games in Philly. I mean, they had to have been some of the coldest baseball games. Am I wrong? Am I right when I remember? They were like,
chilly.
One of them was like they had a rain out in the whole thing. The thing was like,
yes.
I froze my back.
Game 5 had a halftime. Sales.
Yes.
Game 5 had a halftime that was a day long. I think it was a day or two days long, a day and a half.
Dude,
and
so
Jimmy
cold.
Rollins had the Elmer Fudd hat on. They all had the Elmer Fudd, whatever it is. They all had the flappy ears, and it was rainy. It was cold. Oh, it was terrible. Man. Absolutely terrible. And the feeling in Philly at the time was, oh yeah, of course we're going to win a World Series, but they're going to make us wait a couple days. It's going to be the worst weather ever. But yeah, that was bonkers how cold it was.
Oh my! You know what's funny is I became friends with Roy Halliday, who lived in he lived in Orlando, right? And when I got a chance to become, you talk about one of the absolutely coolest dudes I ever knew, and what a heartbreaking story. I mean, you talk about one of the greatest games I've ever seen pitched. Is that, like, what was it? A perfect game he threw?
No hitter in the postseason. Perfect game. Perfect game.
It's the Cardinals
in Miami. Perfect game.
Miami.
The Reds was the no hitter. He threw a no hitter.
The Reds was the no hitter. That's right.
Yeah. Joey Votto called timeout on him last second a couple of times in that game. And Roy Halladay was like, told him at the next All-Star game, I was going to kill you.
Hey, I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. It's great.
Let me go here with you now. I talked to Howard Eskin yesterday. And then I also talked with Angelo and some people that are friends of mine, friends of yours that are in the organization. Now, until this comes out, I'm landing on 3 years, $13.5 million.
A year?
That does not make him one of the top 5 coaches in the National Football League. Now, does that matter, Mark? I mean, at the end of the day, his resume, I'm told, is the greatest or the 4th greatest of all time. My question to you would be, they doubled his pay from $6 million. It's not like this guy didn't get a tremendous bump. However, don't you think Jeffrey Lurie takes great pride in this? Well, I've never had a losing coach since I've owned a team, as a record-wise. Look at the assistant coaches that I've hired that have gone on to become head coaches. Look at the general managers that I've had with Joe Banner and with Howie Roseman. Don't you think he takes great pride? And even in that press release, Mark, and I know I'm setting the question up for you here, and I'm leading you to where I want you to go, but I don't think you're going to go here.
Objection.
You're right, exactly. I'm doing a soliloquy here a bit. However, if they thought he was the most important person in the building, they'd have paid him the most money. Now, until that's official, I thought it was weird. Got an extension. Well, shit, Mark, we knew they were going to do that. They didn't want to tell us, and they didn't want to tell us the amount of years because to me, they don't want to let you know what they really think of him. I'm not saying they don't like him, but surely they think more of Howie Roseman than they do when it comes to Nick Sirianni. How did you see that contract when they weren't giving you any particulars?
Yeah.
We knew they were going to extend them. And by the way, no one had the balls to have the follow-up question in the pit there to ask, hey, Nick, this is how coaches are evaluated on what you make and how important you are. I don't care how much he makes, Mark. I want to know what they think of him. How did you take that?
Well, what I saw was Eskin's tweet that he was told the Eagles gave him a salary that was nicely, that was the word, nicely
Above 10 million.
Yeah, but the word that was used by Howard was nicely past 10 million. And I was like, nicely past 10 million? Like, how about nicely past 15 million for the resume?
You saw it like I did.
Yes, because Ben Johnson just got $13 million from the Bears. Are you kidding me? And Nick Sirianni's getting 13 and a half.
Liam Cole got 11.5.
Here's what I think it comes down to. The Eagles understand what Nick Sirianni is. And they feel like what Nick Sirianni is, although I disagree, is replaceable. They feel like, look, if you're giving a guy $13 million, I don't give a damn what his first paycheck was, okay? If that's what he's amassed for you in the 4 years, playoffs every year, 2 Super Bowl appearances, a Super Bowl championship, you only have one other Super Bowl championship. Oh, and by the way, you're running it back with this offense. I'm going to go ahead and say that he deserves more than $13.5 million. But the Eagles' perspective is, hold on, Kellen Moore did a hell of a job. He's not here anymore. I think that's the way they also look at it.
That's right.
I think they also look at it as we're paying Jeff Stoutland coordinator money to be a offensive line coach, and that bears a hell of a lot of fruit. And that's where we invest in the trenches. No better way to show that other than players than with the coach that provides the players to always reach their best possible or highest ceiling. And then you're also paying Vic Fangio, I think, $4.5 million a year to be your defensive coordinator. That's not cheap for a defensive coordinator. So there is money allocated for coaches here that is distributed as the Eagles see fit. And I think what they're paying their head coach is a low ball payment. And that is acknowledging all the ups and downs, all the faults of Nick Sirianni. But bottom line is, year in and year out, he has his team ready to play football. And this team has his back. And I've talked to plenty of players throughout the years that don't give a damn who their head coach is. They don't give a damn about their coordinator. They're playing for them. They're playing for old number one themselves. Nick Sirianni, I don't know what magic he's got, but these players play for this guy. And he might do things from the flower power speech to the T-shirts to dress it up like Jaylen Herz for Halloween. It hits with these players. And when you talk about controversy going through last season of what the relationship was between him and his quarterback, well, let's not forget that you go into training camp and Jaylen Herz literally could not say something nice about his head coach.
Nothing.
Then you come out of the bye week, Sills, out of week 5.
2-2.
Oh, my God, c'est la vie. We're having sleepovers and watching movies together. All of a sudden, they're on the same page. It's and I hate to use this term because I made fun of it so much, but Jeffrey Lurie, this is what he's looking for, emotional intelligence. Nick Sirianni is a Rhodes Scholar in emotional intelligence. And I know that might be tough for some people to admit, but that is the God's honest truth. He's a Rhodes Scholar when it comes to emotional intelligence. That is one of the prerequisites to being the head coach of the Eagles. With all that being said, acknowledging what they're paying coordinators, acknowledging what they're paying Jeff Stoutland, $13.5 million for a two-time Super Bowl, two-time NFC champion, one-time Super Bowl champion head coach is a low ball offer. And I'm shocked it's south of 15 million.
Me too. But I would also say this to you. I don't have a problem with people going like this, what you just said. Well, I want to pay Vic. I want to pay Jeff. And I also want to pay Howie. I mean, if I'm going to pay anybody and make him the highest paid general manager in North American sports, it's that guy. If I want to make a statement, don't you make the statement? Nick Caserio makes $7 million. He's the highest paid coordinator, or he's the highest paid general manager in football. Don't you make the statement with the GM going, if I'm going to pay a guy north of $10 million and I'm going to make him the highest paid general manager in all sports, that's the kind of thing you stand on a hill with and go, that's the architect. Remember, he's the architect. Okay? I mean, Nick's not the builder. He's kind of like, he's not the builder. Howie is. Don't you ever, I don't have a problem with that dynamic in that building. It may be unconventional, Mark, but that's how they're winning.
I've used the term with you before, guidance counselor. He's the guidance counselor. You know what I mean? It's like Jeffrey Lurie is the principal, the president of the school. And then Howie Roseman's the principal. And then you have the really nice guidance counselor, Nick Sirianni, who kind of knows how to organize everything. So
wait, Big Dom paddles him when he's out of hand on the sideline?
Oh, he's the disciplinarian. Yeah, he's the disciplinarian.
Oh, so like he's the father, right? Or like the nun that whacks you with the paddle, right? Is that the guy?
Yeah. He's in my school, it was Brother Jerome. In Archbishop Wood High School in Warminster, it was Brother Jerome that was the disciplinarian. Big Dom is Brother Jerome. He's the guy you don't mess with. I had
Sister Marjorie Fish, and every time they used to do it over the loudspeaker, Dan Sileo, please report to Sister Marjorie Fish's office. And I go in there, and I'm going to tell you, she had guns the size of Dwayne Johnson. And she walked in there, and I remember and I was telling the story the other day, she used to drill holes in her paddle. And I was like, why do you have holes in your paddle? So you can hear the wind when it hits your keister. And boy, when I'll tell you what, I thought bees bit me after there were always three gigantic whacks. And of course, I broke one of the paddles. And hey, I don't know. Hey, Mark, I think it was because I didn't wear my tie that day.
Oh,
so because I always wore my tie around my head. By the end of the day, I just got, I believe, can you imagine me? I don't wear a tie every day to school.
I was there too, man. If I had to do it, I can imagine you doing it. Absolutely. Yeah. And my generation just missed the generation of getting hell beat out of you. I mean, Mr. Duffy would, if you weren't wearing your sweater at Archbishop Wood, he'd pop you in the chest, like give you. I'll say this: it wasn't a love tap. It wasn't a love tap, but it was a little bit more than let me get your attention. And then Sister Stanislaus, okay, she would just make you feel guilty as hell. She would make you feel because they didn't hit you anymore. They would just make you go like, oh wow, I'm gonna burn in hell because I didn't cross my T on my first grade test. You know what I mean? That was Sister Stanislaus's, and she lived to be like 113 or something like that. It was crazy. I remember one comedian used to use the line, "The nuns knew so much about Jesus because they hung out with Jesus." That was one of my favorites.
Hey, I'm very disappointed in you. Brand new Pope from Nova, and you didn't give a shit that they won in '85. Very, very disappointed. By the way, I'll just say this to the new Pope. I don't care you're from Chicago. That's not going to help the Bears. Last one for you here. Ready?
Yeah.
Outside of Jaylen Herz.
Yeah.
In 2025, Kevin Petula has to get the ball in the hands more with AJ, or do you want to see it back with Barkley? Now, if you go Barkley and you want him to get another $2,000, Mark, that's 800 carries in 2 years.
No,
this is
my number one ask. My number one ask is give me a middle of the road passing attack. In terms of usage, like efficiency was great last year. It was great. But I don't want Saquon Barkley to have 482 touches again. All right. I want the passing game to take some of that responsibility. So here's my theory on that. Yeah, obviously Petullo's got to call that, but at the same time, is Dallas Goedert signing a contract extension with the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't think he's signing a contract extension with the Philadelphia Eagles.
No.
They're going to give him the DeMarco Murray treatment, I think, from the Dallas Cowboys. Like, we know we're not re-signing him, so just give it to him 420 times. Touches, give him 420 touches, and then we'll just let him out into the wild. And then Chip Kelly was like, I'll scoop him up, and that obviously was terrible. But I feel like this year they're really going to hone in on Dallas Goedert. I feel like that's going to be a key target to get the touches away from Saquon. I'm not saying abandon the run. No. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying let's spell Saquon Barkley because historically speaking, it has not worked. Derrick Henry, it's worked. Are there freaks of nature like that? You keep feeding him. He's great. Could you obviously do that with Saquon? You obviously could. But you have all these weapons around. Use those weapons. Look, 2000 would be amazing to get that for Saquon Barkley. I see the Super Bowl championship with him. I don't care about the 2,000 yards anymore. So for me, it's all about just getting back to that dance floor again and then providing yet another parade to the city of Philadelphia.
Let me sneak another one in on you. This will be the last one, I promise.
Go for it.
Barkley's, I get asked this question about Saquon Barkley in Hall of Fame. You know, the New York Giants completely destroyed that opportunity, I thought, for him. However, he's like 87th in rushing right now all time. I mean, New York, he's totally a Hall of Fame talent. You see it. There's no way. Bo Jackson was a Hall of Fame talent. Unfortunately, he never fulfilled the prophecy because he was not on a very good football team and he got hurt. he gets 1,800 yards. They go back to the Super Bowl. They win it. And what does he have to do over the next 3 years to kind of erase a little bit of what people saw him in New York? Because he never lived up to the number 2 draft pick. However, Mark, they failed him.
Yeah, they failed
him by putting a team around him. Is it too late, in your opinion, to carve out a Hall of Fame career for himself? Or do you think, again, I mean, he's entering now. He's 28 years old, and he's got to probably do everything he needs to do if he wants to make that call in 4 years with the Eagles. Do you think he's still got some time?
I do. I think enough people know that the Giants did him dirty.
Yes.
And I think people know what a talent he was. I mean, I remember thinking when he was in New York, like, you just get him a decent offensive line, and this guy's going to be, a top 3 running back in the NFL. He turned out to be the best running back in the NFL last year with the Jeff Stoutland offensive line in front of him. He stays healthy, then obviously you could really do some amazing things with him. And last year was all of that coming to fruition. I grew up in the era, and I think we've talked about this before, I grew up in the era of Barry Sanders, you get him an offensive line, and oh my goodness, you put Barry Sanders in Dallas with that offensive line, and oh my goodness, this is that. This is Saquon Barkley behind that Dallas offensive line. This is the Barry Sanders if he had Dallas's offensive line. You get the record, including the postseason for rushing yards. You get a Super Bowl championship. And you get a guy that, even though you're limiting to whatever it was, 2.2 yards per carry in the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs are all like, yeah, to hell with that. Just stay on the offense, stay on the line. Stop Saquon Barkley no matter what. Do not let him beat you. And Jaylen Herz is like, all right, thanks. I'll beat you. And that's how it worked out. So, yeah, I look at it as, I think the rest of the league will know if he has a solid year this year, solid year next year. I don't think he needs another 2,000, close to 2,000 yard season, but just 2 more years of that, of similar consistency and winning in the postseason, not necessarily getting 3 more Super Bowls, but I think you're absolutely looking at a Hall of Fame running back. I mean, the case can be made now for what he's been able to do. I think he solidifies that case in 2 years.
Absolutely. All right. So Memorial Day weekend, Farzetta has on the grill this weekend. See, here, I'm gonna put probably some lobster tails on.
Okay.
I'll probably maybe have a piece of grouper, some chicken,
Treat
something
yourself
in that room there.
Yeah.
Gotta have the ranch beans. I'm a ranch beans guy. I don't know. Don't worry, my wife. She's it's all right. With the bean. So I mean, I know that we'll have the Italian salad, we'll have the antipasta and all this. I gotta always have something in there. What does Marc Farzetta have during the Memorial Day weekend?
I ranch beans? I don't understand.
I don't know.
What are ranch beans?
Are
they like ranch flavored? Or are they like out on the ranch beans? Like they're just a different way to say.
They're like the baked beans kind of thing.
Baked beans.
Yeah, baked beans. I don't know. It's a white guy. I don't talk like white guys. I'm an Italian, So I understand you not understanding that because I don't really either. I mean, my grandmother used to go like this: go to the store and get American bread. And I go, what's American bread? And she goes, Wonder Bread. That's an American bread. I go, oh, okay, that's American bread. Yeah. So I get it. So I mean, this is kind of like, this is have like an American meal during Memorial Day weekend.
We'll definitely do the burgers. One of my favorite things in the world is grilled hot wings. Like, I love grilling wings. They're like penne pasta to me. I could eat that all day and not get full. Like, I just love it. I absolutely love it. So wings, we'll do burgers. My kids love hot dogs, so we'll do the hot dogs. It'll probably, with the exception of like a pesto that I'll make to go over like a little mozzarella balls. I'll do that. I'll do something like that because the basil is just plentiful right now in the garden, so we'll put that over some mozzarella, some pine nuts, and I'll make the typical pesto. It's a nice, refreshing summer snack. So we'll do that. That'll probably be the most Italian thing that I'll do on Memorial Day. Everything else will be good hard. By the way, one of the best things about that Pope, by the way, I love that it was one of the shortest conclaves ever, and they're just like, get me an American. Get me an American. I need an American in here. I love that. So, it'll be a very American
and he's a White Sox fan. How could you be a Pope and a White Sox fan? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, my favorite thing about this Pope, forget anything with Villanova. My favorite thing is this guy's got, 2 brothers?
Yeah.
That he's, close with. They're just like, your brother's now the Pope. Like, what? Like, the 2 guys, Southsiders from Chicago, now have an inn at the Vatican. Like that is, there's something about that that is just so funny to me.
I'm sure you've been in Chicago. There's a place called Rush Street where they have all the bars up there. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
The dude rolls in there at the bar. He goes, "Hey, give me a shot and a beer here. Hey, by the way, you know my brother's the Pope. Hey, free drinks on the house. Do you think his brothers get free drinks in Chicago because his brother's the Pope?
Well, not in Wrigleyville.
Oh yeah, no,
everywhere else.
I saw Wrigley congratulate the guy, but they're trying to kind of like gravy train off the White Sox because I heard he's a White Sox fan. I mean, I've seen him at White Sox.
He was at the 05 series. They have a shot at him in the stands. Yeah,
there was pictures of him in the stands.
Yeah, one of the brothers had to tip. One of his brothers had to have tipped him off that. Oh yeah, we were at game whatever it was, the World Series. That was the Aaron Rowan World Series before he got traded to the Phillies. White Sox and I'm blanking on the other. It was the drop third strike World Series with AJ Przinsky.
Is it that World Series that all four pitchers that when they won that series, didn't they go 9 or like 8 2/3? Like the starters were like off.
Maybe.
Is that a Bobby Thick? Was that Bobby Thickpin's? Was
oh
that
my God.
Wasn't he the closer for that for Bobby Thickpin?
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, I think the AJ Przinsky dropped third strike. I think that was the ALCS. Excuse me. That was leading up to the World Series.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pope was there. Pope just hanging out.
And he's a Paisan, which is outstanding.
Yeah, they originally thought he was Northern. I know you must have been offended because they just found out that his blood is Sicilian. His Italian blood is.
Yeah, I was I was like, I'm very happy to hear all the things that, this guy. And then he speaks English. He's like, these things are really great. How do you feel about it, Pope being an American now?
Again, like I said, I love the idea that it was such a short conclave, and they were just like, there was shut. So like they had Italian popes forever, and then they had Pope John, who was Polish. Then they had Pope Ratzinger, Benedict the 16th. I was actually at a mass with him in Germany many years ago, and then they had the Italian Argentinian, obviously, and Pope Frank, who just passed away.
Pope Francis.
So I was like, wow, are they getting closer? Like, are they getting further away from the Italians? And then they got Pope Francis.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, there's no way they were going to go with a non-Italian Pope. And he's kind of, he's Argentinian, but he's got Italian ancestry. And then when they went American, I was shocked because I was betting on that Pizza Bowly guy.
Yeah, me too.
Just because one day I wanted to pray to a Saint Pizza Bowly, and unfortunately that didn't work out. But they get the American. The fact that it was so quick, and you just got to, again, I can't get over it. Like, I know guys from Chicago. I don't know anybody from Argentina.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody.
That's what I said. I know a ton of people. Hey, Mark, I was an altar boy for the Pope.
Oh, that's right, in New York.
John Paul II
Yeah.
came to Yankee Stadium, and my school, if you Google it, Stanford Catholic, we were invited. I got pictures of it, and I got like the Pope blessed us.
Was it 79?
Yeah, 79.
Yeah.
At Yankee Stadium. And so we were all taken down, and then we had to go down to the Bowery and all this and that. And my school was taken. Yeah, we were there at Yankee Stadium, 85,000 people. And I was an altar boy for the Pope.
That's awesome.
Hey, you know what? I've done quite a few things. And when I told it, wait a minute, come on.
For the Pope?
The Pope? Yeah, him, that guy, the guy with the hat. Hey, Farzi, have an absolutely fantastic Memorial Day weekend. You make sure you and your family celebrate it together and have yourself a great one. Thank you so much for always finding time for me, brother.
My pleasure. Always great hanging out, brother.
You got it. Thank you, Farzi. You got it. That is our friend Marc Farzetta. We so appreciate him coming aboard with us. Don't forget, he also kicks off our broadcast each and every single day here on JAKIB Sports Monday through Friday. Check out his show. It's absolutely great. I love listening to him talking too, also about Philadelphia sports. That was really awesome. Listening to him talk about how that 2017 Super Bowl and what it meant to the community. I love that stuff. When you're in Los Angeles, you don't think that those guys that are fans, like in Los Angeles, have that same kind of passion and think about that game and know every single second when the Rams won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. You know what they're thinking about? Weirdos in Santa Monica. They're not thinking about anything else. Okay? We will try to effort our friend, our dear friend, Marjorie. Hopefully we're able to catch up with him. Let's catch up with our friends at Morgan & Morgan here. Number one injury law firm in America. Guys, if you're ever in a situation where you've been injured or you've been hurt, make sure you check out my friends at Morgan & Morgan. With over 1,000 attorneys, coast to coast, okay? Coast to coast. They are there to defend you and your family as much as possible. And the number one reason why they're number one is because why? They win. Do me a favor. Check out their website at forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sales sent you.
This is Eric. When he